Sennett so loved the art of making pictures that he was happy to parody his own methods of production.
Oftentimes when they were shooting exteriors, if there happened to be something going on, one day I remember there was a fire, burnt 2 or 3 buildings. So they rushed the cast of characters over and later they'd write it into one of their future pictures.
Sennett had a direct link to the fire department. When the call came, the crew dropped everything, including Ben Chaplin. Sennett would shoot any spectacular event and work a sequence around it.
Mack Sennett was simple yet complex. Simple man in which his deeds were simple, but he had the sort of complexity that he needed butlers in full dress suit around him all the time. And he needed to eat with a black tie. And yet he looked ridiculous in the black tie, and so did his butlers look ridiculous in their livery. He had a tremendous library of books. When I finally opened one, the leaves never been opened. They just bought them by the yard. And he had this strange quality of being simple and yet trying to be sophisticated. And he certainly never made it. He never made it into sophistication at all.
Sophistication was not the reason audiences loved these films. Here is Charlie Chaplin in his very first film, produced by Sennett in 1913. Chaplin has yet to create his screen character. Sennett insisted that Chaplin do the knockabout slapstick his audience expected. Chaplin wanted to make subtler comedies. He left Sennett in 1915 and a year later signed with Mutual for $670,000 a year. He was now the highest paid comedian in history.
The Learning
Chaplin's years on the stage made him a storehouse of English music hall lore. George Harris came from a similar background of music hall and pantomime.
Well, Chaplin, in my estimation, is pantomime. I think his every movement, his every motion was pantomime. The pantomime itself is really action without words. And after all said and done, remember, Charlie Chaplin made his name and became a world figure without any talkies, just as a silent artist.
The one great film comic before Chaplin was The Frenchman, Max Linder. Linder showed how to hold the camera eye with movement alone. Chaplin learned from him and acknowledged his debt. In 1918, they met at the Chaplin studio and Chaplin had it filmed. Linda did Chaplin. Chaplin did Linda. London, 1921. Charlie Chaplin had become the most popular figure in the world.
Chaplin, he's really unfathomable. You can't pin him down. His talent was so great and so varied. He could do anything, and if he didn't know how to do something, he wouldn't say that he didn't know how. But don't show up the next day because he could tell you everything about it or do it better than the guy that originated it. This man was a great tumbler. He had great control of his body. Strong. Oh, immensely strong. Had the ability to do anything with his feet or hands or head, torso. He could do all these things and do them so well.
Jackie Coogan's father was a vaudeville comic. And one night, Jackie joined him in the act. In the audience was Charlie Chaplin.
He was showing me off for the benefit of his friends, and it went over terrifically with the audience. And Chaplin, being a man of instant emotion, said, "I've got to get that kid."
He got him. Jackie Coogan was 4 years old. For a while, Chaplin didn't know what kind of film to make with him. He showed him off for visitors to the studio. This rare piece of film is from Chaplin's own archive. Chaplin saw in Coogan something of himself when young, for he too had been a child performer. Gradually, the shape of the film formed in Chaplin's mind. It would be different from anything he'd done, a comedy with dramatic sequences. Chaplin's own London childhood, when he was taken from his mother and placed in an orphanage, was the inspiration for the kid.
He had nothing goading him on. He was his own boss, and he took the most precious thing in the world, time, and lavished it on the picture. As everyone knows, Charlie wore a crepe mustache, and they used to stick it on with spirit gum. And we had several very close scenes, and this glue has a sort of an offensive odor. A lot of the times, we're just sitting around. He wouldn't even be in costume without an idea. And suddenly he'd get this idea and he'd disappear and get his makeup on and put the mustache on, and it was fresh. And that odor would come through from that glue, and that was always associated with, well, it's time to go to work.